Welcome to Water Wizards, where we get inspired by the movers and shakers of the world, those catalyzing change just like water.
We are live. All right, everyone. Welcome to the Water Wisdom Podcast. I'm so excited to introduce the amazing Michele Castro. Okay, let me introduce how we connected, how our energies connected. Okay. So I know you've been working with the Stargate for years. Less than 2 years ago, I was introduced by a dear friend of mine to the Stargate Experience, and I've been addicted ever since. So I will drop a link for that so you all can access the Stargate Experience. It's an amazing sacred geometric energy that we call in, and it helps raise your vibration. So as I was watching the Stargate Experience on YouTube, I was introduced to Michelle's energy. She came in and did a Isis channeling and introducing us to the energy that's called the essence of life with one of the hosts named Jules. And it was the most visceral experience that I've ever had in a Stargate experience. And I had no idea at the time that I was going to say, "Oh, Michele, come on the podcast," because the podcast didn't exist at that time. But when I started this journey on the podcast, you were one of the first people that I thought, I was like, I've got to reach out and see if Michele will come and visit with us. So as I was exploring Michelle's energy, getting further addicted and excited, I told her, I was like, I hope you don't feel like I'm stalking you. She is amazing and has beautiful offerings to the world. I actually have listed below her website. Is sacredreference.com. And as Athena's playing in the background, it's all good. We're just going with the flow. We're going to breathe through it. And Michele, what I want you to do is tell us, what you do. I know that you're an Isis channel, but you're so much more than that. You're a mom. You have so much to bring the world.
I did tell them you're my daughter. So what I do, okay, it's kind of perfect that she's here. I have always been, let's say, since a child, very aligned with all of these multidimensional energies. And Thena, you have to be quiet, remember? So I was on the path of transpersonal psychology, which is spiritual psychology. It's about non-ordinary states of consciousness. And I studied it, and I went and lived in spiritual communities, and I did some work around the world, working with different communities and shamanistic work and lots of movement and dance and yoga, things like that. But in 2010, I met Prageet, who created the Stargate.
Love him.
And I had a new baby. I was a mom for the first time, and all of a sudden my spiritual practice, the Buddhist practices that I had done, all these different things, I felt so isolated because now I'm this mom. And I started going to the Stargate, and he said, well, you can come more and you can bring your daughter next time. And this was my older daughter at the time. And so she became a member of the Stargate. So my real,
and then I became
real spiritual journey of being immersed in contact with the multidimensional energies really was a journey with me and my daughter being in these energies. And so this is probably when I was doing that work, what I was recognizing is that we all love to feel those multidimensional aspects of self. Yet I was noticing that people were, we were, and I was included, I was like checking out and having these amazing experiences that, I would sit in meditation. But what happened when I got up and went out into the real world? And that is where my work really became infused. I started hearing the voice of the goddess, which I didn't know it was her voice. It happened in these circumstances where these little synchronicities were showing up. My my aunt passed away, and during she passed away, I was visited by the Black Madonna. And then I was doing some research, and a woman came up to me and told me that an angel was telling her to give me this little crystal, this metal. And the woman said, an angel told me to give this to you, and she wants you to know that you guys are going to do powerful work in the world. And I said, wow, this is amazing. This is like one of the little medals, the little Catholic medals that my aunt would give me. And she said, well, what's your name, your aunt's name, dear? Is her name Suzanne? And I almost like fainted right there. And so these little things were leading me to study somatic psychology and to continue my Gnostic studies. And yet when I was working with Alcazar in the Stargate, it was like, you don't need to study anything because you're going to be able to tap into something. Yet there was this need to kind of bridge my worlds of science and spirituality together.
Yeah.
So I started studying and training in somatics, which is all about embodiment. And as I was doing it, there was these beings that would come and just giggle. Like I could feel the presence of these beings. And I know I sound crazy, but I'm encouraging you all to just trust that when little crazy things happen, like it's real. And so I was like, okay, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. It was what I was supposed to be doing. And then a series of events that were really life-changing and really difficult started occurring. And it was at a time when, again, this next experience of what I call the goddess came in and started flooding me. And then COVID started happening, and I went to the Stargate house, which is in Mount Shasta, and they were doing a workshop. And I had already been introduced to this essence of life work. And in that process of being in the energies and being with Julianne, I had this experience where the goddess Isis started coming into me, and I knew nothing of Isis. I knew nothing. And I shared that with Julianne, and she was like, it's real. You need to keep exploring this. And so I didn't study anything about her because that was what came through. All right, you don't have to believe this. Just don't study anything about me. And then I kept having I would have these downloads and then experience, and then, have something show up in a book. Oh, this is who Isis is, and this is the myth. And all of the work was aligning with what was coming through me. And so, and then Julianne and I started playing, and with these energies of the essence of life, and me bringing in the energies of Isis and the goddess, this lineage of the goddess, because Isis is part of a lineage. And when I started playing and opening up to it, amazing things started happening. And this is what my work is about. It's about finding that source inside, and you can call it an inner fire, and you can call it, but there's also a well inside of each and every one of us. It's a sacred holy well. And there's this place, it's a source. It's almost a water source. And when I first felt it, it was at this place, this beach that I have spent since I was a child. And it's this beach where it's the place in New Jersey where the river kind of meets the ocean, and it creates the hook in New Jersey. And it's called Sandy Hook. And it actually has the oldest lighthouse in the country. Whoop, whoop.
Oh, that's amazing.
And so it's this very special, amazing place filled of history. But to be at this place where fresh and salt water meet, and to feel, the primordial waters mixing. This is the primordial, like feminine and masculine principles of sweet and salt waters. And and when we open ourselves up to the mystery of water, there's this possibility that we can tap into more than just our own nourishment. We can tap into these frequencies of our ancestral lineage. These, there's codes in the myths, these stories that have been passed down, that have been preserved since ancient times. Not only do we have them in words, but we have them in the water. And so that's what's so beautiful about you in this water journey that you're on. So yeah, that's how this work really came about. And since then, I've been leading people through these journeys of non-ordinary states, having people come into contact with the gods and the goddesses and whatever energies want to come through me, and also offering these very practical skills and tools that are needed for us to ascend.
Beautiful.
Because, it's not just like peaches and buttercups and
right. So I was doing one of your activations, and something I wrote down was, you said, as you were channeling Isis, your earth walk is the underworld. Your earth walk is the underworld. And so I think of this when I'm thinking about feeling into, how do I support people to move into their mission when your earth walk is the underworld, when we are moving through such density, when we are the way showers, we are the pioneers that have said, I'm going to step up, I'm going to step out. And wow, what an activation COVID was. Because there's a deep synchronicity here as you're talking about you really moving into mission around the time of COVID, because COVID was what pushed me out of the hospital. It was the final straw. I made it through the first wave, and then things started ramping up again. And I was like, I am out. And so I left my job as an RN and started really diving into this online mission work with the water. And then a friend of mine, a very close friend of mine, got sick with COVID. It was a massive ego death for him, because it was his body. There was something there that made COVID very difficult for him, whereas for many, it's just a common cold, right? And he almost died. He was in a coma for 25 days. And do you know what this led?
Wow.
What this opened up for me? A massive healing initiation with Isis. This is when the energy of Isis, which it sounds like was around the same time.
Yes.
Right. And I spent every day outside in the woods on a blanket, working outside in the woods on a blanket. And Isis was there for me, because I did not know. I mean, it was ultimate surrender for me, because he was in New Orleans. I didn't know what was going on with him. I had no idea. And I'm like the RN, what can I do? How can I support? Right. And Isis started coming through, and she would come through to me with visuals. And she was reminding me of my abilities as a healer. I've always been a healer, but it was next level. And I was sitting outside one day, and a hawk landed next to me. Right next to me, within a foot. And it actually scared the shit out of me. I was like, I knew what energy was coming through. And Sekhmet was also very present for me through this. And so when you started channeling Isis, I was like, I've got to meet this woman. I've got to touch her energy and shine a light on her, because she is amazing. So thank you for allowing me to share that synchronicity with you. And thank you for sharing how you moved into the Stargate work. And in watching what you're doing, it has been, I feel the evolution. I feel your power. What I see in you is that part of me, that wild energy that was dampened in us as a child, where people said, shh, play small, put your hand down, be
Mm-hmm.
silent. And so this is something that's coming up for me now in the allow yourself to be the fullness of who you are, Monica. And that's what your activation did for me, is to help me remember that. So thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
So powerful. I'm so excited to illuminate what you're doing and share, what you're doing with the audience and beyond the beyond, because it's magnificent. You are a gift to the world. So thank you for all that you do. What does that bring up for you?
I'm like, well, you are inspiring to me. And like, you're like a powerhouse. And that's the energy that I need to in my life in order to bring this work forward, because I'm definitely someone that's more, I want to just sit in the energies. I don't, and I know it's my journey to come out and share them with the world. And I could, if you come to me, I will, I will activate them in you. And that's beautiful. And I know that spirit, my soul is calling for me to come out into the world, for me to bring it out into the world. And when I am in contact with your energy, that's what comes in for me. And so it's so beautiful. And I'm so grateful that you are activating and inspiring me and offering me a piece of the energetic puzzle that seems to kind of get, it's like where the if there was like a hole in the raft, and you need to put a little patch on it. Yes, like that's the thing. And that's one of the beautiful ways that women inspire each other. And we can all inspire, even men, and we can all do this for each other. And I need to, of course, mention the hawk, because that's Horus.
Right.
I've had those confirmations too, where this hawk came, where I'm like, what am I doing? Is this right? Am I in the right path? And then this hawk is like spending an hour hanging out with me, and I'm like, okay, I get it.
I love it.
And so much of what the mission, so when I open up myself, there's the part of me that's been trained academically and through lots of different trainings on how to teach embodiment, how to work with the nervous system, how to quite tangibly help change our nervous system and our brain circuitry. And I've also studied mythology and Jungian psychology and Gnosticism. And so I do have a lot of academic and linear training. But when I open myself up for the energies to come through me and the energies of the goddess to come through me, I'm aware that feels a little different. And sometimes I feel like they'll use my data bank. I say, like Isis, when she'll come through.
I love it.
She'll totally use my data bank.
Yes, I love it.
And what the biggest mission, like right now, is what keeps coming through is that we, this journey, this awakening that we're on, this calling to bring forward the true authentic expression of our soul, this journey of ascension, that in order to ascend, we have to descend as well. We have to be completely in surrender to the idea that this is the underworld, to the Gnostics, to the Celtic people, in these, early Christianity, these myths, they understood that there was no bypassing, that there was no, there was no easy way, that this was taking an incarnation into what we call an earth walk is a holy privilege, and it's not to be bypassed. And that this experience of ascension and awakening, it's meant to be embodied. We're being called to bring spirit into matter. And this is what the goddess is really here to help us, and the gods, because they've been distorted. As humanity has gone through these dark ages, and some people call it patriarchy and all that kind of, whatever we want to call it. It's that through that our, the dark goddess in particular has been shunned. The Black Madonna is now shoved to the corner of the cathedral. And the only template we have for divine feminine is the Virgin Mother, who is in perfect union. But we're in a physical human body where we need a template. We need the guidance. We need to be guided through this experience here. And that's where these gods and goddesses, they are living energies that in their pristine forms. And if we listen, if we listen to the stories, if we understand and we kind of track and get aligned energetically, and we start looking at our own distorted relationships, that they can help us bring through within us the full totality of what it means to be divine feminine or divine masculine. I'm preparing to go on this journey with the Stargate to Egypt and Greece. And while I'm so ecstatic to get to Egypt, I mean, really, I can't even imagine Isis and Sekhmet and the temples and the energies. And
wow.
And there's something in deep, the part of me that needs balance, that in that wild woman in me is being drawn to this Isle of Ikaria in Greece, which I'm going to visit after. So I can.
Oh, wow. That's beautiful. And so the Stargate is going to Greece.
Yes.
First, right? September 8th and 9th.
Egypt,
when is Egypt?
First they go to Egypt and then Greece.
So when is Egypt?
Egypt is the 19th we arrive. So I think the 20th, September 20th. And then the October 8th is the Greece journey.
Okay. I had my month wrong there. Okay,
yeah.
Perfect. That's amazing. And the synchronicity, these Greek energies are really coming in for me. And so when you said your daughter's name was Athena, and now, the Stargate going to Greece, and then you start talking, I love synchronicities. It's freaking magical. So
Athena was, yes, she was born so Greece is the Stargate Global Gathering. And they had the last Stargate Global Gathering was in Slovenia, and Athena was born at home. And while I activated my own Stargate, and it was a difficult birth in the sense that you're a nurse. So when the baby's like sunny side up or something, I don't know what they call that. So I had to push it. It was a little bit more of a warrior. I had to get my warrior ass on to get her out. And, I don't know where it came from. It was just out of nowhere. I wasn't really that even cued into Greek mythology at that time. I, did some studies in it, and I had a lot of training in it, but it wasn't in my field. And all of a sudden, as I'm trying to get this baby out, who did not want to come, she didn't want to come in water. She wanted the land. She needed to be born on a bed. Okay. But I was like, Athena, help me, Athena, please, Athena. And I don't know where it came from. It just appeared. And then a week later, when she didn't have a name and I asked for a sign, I was bit by a spider in the middle of the night. I woke up, I was nursing her in the middle of the night, and I got this weird thing. And it's like, oh my gosh, it's a spider bite. And Athena is the goddess of weaving that turned Arachne into a spider.
Oh, I love it.
That's your name.
Affirmation. That's beautiful. What's your older daughter's name?
Her name is Satori.
Satori.
Which means, yes, which was also a synchronistic name. Her uncle was like, if I had a daughter, I would name her Satori. And we're like, Satori. Oh, that's an interesting word. It's an interesting name. And we had all these different signs. And again, she was alive, and I was like, oh, Seraphina, I'm going to name her Seraphina. And she didn't fit. And then I said Satori, and she kind of started.
Ooh, I love that. What does that mean?
It actually, it's like a spontaneous awakening. It's a spontaneous moment of enlightenment or nirvana. It's a word that comes from Japanese.
That is
Buddhism.
beautiful. That's beautiful. So my oldest is named Sophia. She's 16.
Mm-hmm.
And then I have a Nadia. Nadia is 12. So, these girls, I love it. Thank you so much. Thank you. So, okay, I want to talk a little bit about the somatics that you are citing. So I personally do breath work every day. So my daily practice is meditation, breath work, and or EFT tapping. So I'll do some breath work or some EFT tapping, depending on what my soul leads me to in a given day. And so when I first started my journey, I was like meditation all the time. I was really into the quantum. I really wanted to go away. And then, right? And then I came into this awareness of, the point is to really be in the body. We came to be in the body for this earth walk, right? We came to have a physical experience and to really experience the depth of growth that our soul desires. And so it's about being in the now moment, appreciating the now moment. And so how do I be present in my meditations? But then also, how do I keep my nervous system on board so that I can actually allow the channel to be open and not clogged up with all the old bullshit that's stuck in my body? And so this is when I started my journey with tapping and breath work. And it has changed everything for me. As a nurse, the loudest experience I had, the loudest indication that my nervous system was clearing and was coming on board was when I went into a code situation. I was cool as a cucumber. I was the team leader. I was helping everyone know exactly what needed to be done. And after that experience, I immediately went back to baseline. And I really didn't deviate much. Like my heart rate wasn't racing. My hands weren't sweating. My mind wasn't swirling, but everybody else was in this place of disorganization the rest of the day. I was not. And so like all nurses should do breath work and some sort of somatic practice because their patients will benefit from it,
Absolutely.
Yeah. So tell me what sort of somatic experience are you talking about when you talk about keeping the nervous system on board? What rings your bell?
Oh God, we need
a lot.
a lot of time. So there's when I think of somatics, I think of breath, I think of movement, and I think of a lot of touch. I am aware that the way that we organize, if we follow the path of how we grow, in the womb as embryos into, human beings, and then the human being is born. And when we first, our brains when we are first born are only implicit, meaning that we can only register sensations. We don't have, this part. And even the 4-year-olds here, they just, it's not really there where these cognitive things. So, we have this brainstem level, and then we have this emotional limbic system, and then we have this higher brain, that this neocortex, and at the level of the brainstem, where it seeks safety, and then the level of the midbrain, that a limbic system, is seeking connection, and then the neocortex is the part that seeks experiences of learning. And when we look at how we live, if we don't have, it's not, we've been trained where it's like this, like, okay, mind over matter type of thing. Yet what I just described is, the brainstem is at the bottom. And when that has a registering of safety, then it can connect. And when there's a connection, then we can learn. And there is it's not the opposite way. It doesn't really, the only time that top-down circuitry can work is if we already have an established sense of connection and safety. And safety, so we have to work just as we develop as human beings from the bottom up. And we have to align ourselves with these felt senses of safety. We have to use these cues of touch, of the alignment. It's when we're using our breathwork techniques, 9 times out of 10, whatever breath work we're doing, we're aligning to the way the breath feels in our body more than the actual physical practice of just breathing. And, the example I want to give, I have a friend that it was a professional ballerina and will tell you that while you see this beautiful performance of the most powerfully embodied people, or, oh my gosh, every movement and every way they use their muscle is so precise that when that curtain closes, they're hobbling off the stage because there's that level of numbness and shutdown that has to happen in order for them to do that. So that's not an embodied practice in a sense. So we can be in our body and not be embodied. And what embodiment is that capacity to be with whatever is happening without shying away and being able to bring ourselves back into these flow states of regulation. And many of us don't have that capacity. Many of us that have been drawn to these spiritually open states were actually those that were born with a lot of challenges, a lot of traumas. And part of it is that your nervous system was able to completely go into these altered states of dissociation and hang out there. Right. And so while that is a beautiful capacity, we then have to bring spirit down into matter. We have to be able to feel. We have to be able to find these inner resources in our body to reference. So we have safety reference inside. And when we begin to work with these beings that are here to help us and to guide us, when we work with the angels, when we work with the gods and the goddesses, like there's an actual experience that we can feel inside that's happening. And that's where change can happen on the most profound and sustainable level. Because like it's like you needed in this work situation that you're in, you needed to be in that space now. And you used your tools to help you stay and maintain that. And then we also need to use these skills and tools to go out into the ethers to allow these not in ordinary states to occur. But then we need to integrate it and bring it back in and train the body to be in access with them. And that's where these skills and tools come in. And I'll just speak about water in the sense that water, we're in water when we're in our mama's womb, right? That's an experience of being in water. And so much of opening ourselves to the capacity to become, I'm waiting for it to come and not have it come from my mind, to align ourselves into complete authenticity, I will call it, and bring forward these new capacities as human beings to rewire ourselves, is to realign with those primordial movements that occurred within our body as it was floating through water. And to, when we're working with realigning our nervous systems, we can actually begin to notice that the body has a way where it can move like water. And
I love this.
Can really actually bring about very enhanced states of healing and reorganization of the mind and reorganization of the cells and the tissues. Because it knows these movements. It knows what it's like to move through water. And just because we haven't thought about it for 20, 30, 50, 80 years, however long you've been alive, you're not aware of this because you were never taught to pay attention to it.
Mm-hmm.
And when we remember these things and we awaken these things, all of a sudden we have access to parts of ourselves that have always been within us, but they're just dormant. And now we can use this to to enhance our lives, to bring about healing. You know, a lot of what we call aging, a lot of what we call degeneration has to do with the constriction of fascia in the body, with these limiting holding patterns. And we all have them. I have them. And the more that we allow ourselves to open up and just feel what we're holding on to and experience that in a safe way, we can completely change, you know, our entire physiology. We can change and bring our health back into balance. And we could be 80, 90 years old and still have fluid movements within us.
Yes.
So this is where the
like water.
Yes, we can move like water. And sometimes we, you know, sometimes we need to be, you know, we need more of our bones, and you know, we need to have other things, but to move like water, to allow the body to open up, to feel that way, you know, like imagine holding your arm and you're holding like a water balloon, you know, like that feeling. And can you allow, and this can take a little while, but you know, can you allow for the possibility for the that if you are to explore this, and sometimes it's like we said, that when we work with embodiment, it's this process of moving sometimes from visualization, where we can visualize that water balloon, and then we can feel what's happening in the body. You know, we visualize our, you know, the water, and then we can feel, maybe we just feel, and there's nothing special to feel. It's whatever you feel in the moment. Maybe you can feel what it feels like to have your muscles move like water, or you can feel what it feels like to move in water. And then eventually, as this practice becomes ingrained, because anytime we're feeling, we're telling our whole brain and body to pay attention to this. This is important. Pay attention to me. It begins to pay attention to that movement. It begins to create new, you know, neural pathways to link to that movement. And then over time, it just becomes that movement. You just do it without thinking. So somatics is a journey towards embodiment. And it's the place that each and every one of us have been taught to ignore. Yes. Unless I don't know, you're that few that came in with everything right.
Right. Oh, wow. So beautiful. Thank you so much. I mean, that was an activation. Just, I was like moving with you. That felt really good. Yes. Thank you for sharing that.
And you're welcome. That's a resource. That's something that you could be sitting at your desk wherever you are. You can be in the car and you can just feel these little spaces inside. If you're having pain in your joints, and you can just imagine allowing it, slowing it down. And this is why it's a journey and a process that it's sometimes takes time with. But, you know, can you use the water as a resource inside your own body?
Yes. Amazing.
So now I'm inspired. I'm like, oh, have me back and we can just play with that.
I would love to. I would love to have you back. Okay, so now you're committed. I'm going to reach to you and we're going to do this again. This has been amazing. So in closing, I do want to go over here and acknowledge the comments. And then I would like for you to tell us where we can access your magic. Oh, just people chiming in. Someone said COVID was the pivot for people to make change, but not everyone is aware and awake enough to choose to embrace the journey meant for us. Oh, that speaks volumes, doesn't it?
Yes, and it's not our job to make anybody else wake up. It's our job
That's
to
right.
shine our most authentic light and to
That's right.
do our own work and watch what happens.
Yes.
And see who's attracted to it.
Oh, and then I love this story. Monica's energy is next level. Oh, thank you so much. I love you all so much. We're just getting a lot of excitement. Wow, that's amazing. It's landing for me, tuning into what's available within me. This is beautiful. Oh, this has been amazing. Thank you so much for all of the comments. And Michele, tell us where we can access. I do have your website, sacredreference.com, listed below. Is there anything else that you want to share with us around your offering or your current offerings?
I mean, I'm kind of new in bringing all of my offerings online. Usually I have, just a private practice. And I've done a few things on those Stargate, but I am getting more, okay, I'm saying yes to this world of online, and and so on Vimeo and YouTube, although there's only a little bit. I promise there'll be more. Just so if you want to sign up, and I do have an Instagram. My 13-year-old just made me a TikTok account. I don't know.
Yes.
That might be too much for me. We'll see. But because I need to be authentic. I can't push myself beyond the limits that I
absolutely.
So you can find me in these places. And while I'm traveling, I do plan on having a lot come through. So
beautiful. Oh, this has been amazing. Thank you so much, Michele. I appreciate you. Have a wonderful rest of your day, and I look forward to having you back. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thanks everyone for listening.
Thank you so much for joining us. If you enjoyed it, please like, share, and subscribe. And to learn more about how I support all of my mission work, Kangen Water, check the description.